Just a very, very brief bit about me. I'm Clare Clouting. May know me from Athena Quality, but I also run Athena Safety. I've got 20 years experience in the food and beverage industry, including 9 years at PepsiCo, during which some of the time I spent as state safety manager. Most recently, I was at Good Drinks, or many of you might know that as Gage Roads. And I also sat on the board of the Independent Brewers Association. I started Athena in March because what I wanted to do was help the industry produce consistently high quality beer and safely. And I believe in making quality and safety manageable and accessible to all, regardless of budget. When I came into the brewing industry, I was a bit shocked about some of the safety risks, and the general safety culture was a bit of a shock. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some of those critical risks and then very quickly go over the Take 5 approach to safety and how to embed a good safety culture and then the next steps. And at the end, hopefully if we have time, because I'm sure everybody just wants to go and get a beer, but if you've experienced a safety issue and you're willing to share it with the group, please do go ahead, because I think we can all learn from each other. So brewing is one of the most high-risk industries I've worked in, and I've been some places and seen some accidents over the years. Most of the critical risks are present in our industry. We'll have a look. So you have working at heights. We've got CO2, we've got high temperatures and pressures, chemical exposure, confined spaces, moving vehicles, electrical hazards, heavy lifting. You name it, there is a lot of risks in our industry. A focus on safety and designated safety resources is also not a common thing for our industry due to budget and also knowledge. And each has the capacity, each of these risks, to lead to life-altering safety accidents. So here's some of the critical risks in terms of why they occur in craft breweries. Well, craft breweries can be really hazardous due to lack of space, often where a lot of us are working in a small space with a lot of equipment packed in there. The budget for items like things like access platforms, manual handling aids tends to be low or non-existent. And often there's a lack of in-house OH&S resources. Production and financial pressures can make people feel under pressure to work unsafely. And safety is often a challenge because, and brewing is no different. In turn, this can make the critical risks hard to manage and accidents harder to prevent. Here's some compounding factors. So certainly there is a lot of factors in the world of small to medium breweries which compound these critical risks. And space, like I mentioned, can be a huge factor. For example, they can impact visibility. So something like where having a small 5S program in your brewery can make the world of difference, or regular cleanups. And production pressures, including time and cost, can limit your ability to work safely. Immature safety culture and communication protocols can also impact breweries' ability to work safely. A big thing is learning to walk before you can run. So the task of implementing a full safety program is a huge undertaking, so going full tilt into it before having the basic foundation of a food safety culture can lead to failure, and it's also a waste of time and resources. So start by embedding some of the basic safety behaviours, and that's a good way of getting your foundation in place. Things like always wearing PPE, or making sure PPE is actually available, being aware of your surroundings, not taking risks, is a good thing to instill in culture, and ask for help if you don't know how to do something. These are all cultural practices that should be in place before you even try to implement a full safety program. And reporting hazards to a supervisor. Many breweries don't have a proper formal hazard reporting structure. Inductions are a really important thing, and again, small to medium breweries don't always have an induction process, But it's super important part of onboarding new employees, especially when it comes to OH&S. This is your chance to start people off on the right foot and tell them what you're about as a business, but it also reduces the risks of accidents and injuries by educating new employees about hazards in the workplace and how to prevent them. So, yeah, you can explain to people what risks they're going to come up against in their working environment. It'll help with compliance. You'll be creating a good culture right from the outset, and you'll be improving employee morale and productivity. Creating a culture of safety and being positive, it sets the tone right from the outset. Accidents can happen really quickly, and every person deserves to leave work in the same condition they arrived in. On a personal level, your body is your most valuable asset. You wouldn't drive a car for, 60 years without servicing it or taking good care of it. But I always am surprised that people don't feel about their body that way. That body is the thing that's going to earn you a living and take you on holiday and look after your family members. We need to treat it as our most valuable asset. Without your health, you can't work, take care of yourself or others, or even achieve your life goals. So the Take 5 approach, which we're going to be focusing on today, is very, very quick, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's 5 wonderful, simple and easy to follow steps that you can usually do in 5 minutes. And often the most simple things are the most effective. So before you're about to do a job or embark on a task or do anything, the first step is step back and think. Look and identify, assess the risk, control the hazard, and monitor the hazard. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how that looks. So, step back and think. Take time. What do I need to do? Think about the task that you're about to embark on. What equipment and materials do I actually need to do this job? So one of the worst health and safety incidents I came across was where a lady was stripping down pallets and she hadn't been provided with a proper safety knife to rip the pallets. And people do bring stuff from home. If you don't provide them with the tools and equipment, they're going to go to the shops and buy themselves a cheap Stanley knife and bring it to work. And I've seen it many times. And she was tearing the pallet wrap off the pallet upwards, which is always a bad idea, but because she hadn't been trained to do it another way, and actually sliced her arm open. I was the first aider at the time, and she ended up with 22 stitches in her arm. And just getting her out the factory was hard because she kept fainting from the shock of it. And that's just something as simple as not providing the right tools. Where am I going to do this task? Can people see me? Is there forklifts moving around? Am I hidden off in a corner behind some pallets that could fall down? Have I got enough space to do what I need to do safely? And who is involved in this task? Do I need to tell somebody else that we're doing this? Do I need to tell that person over there CIPing a tank that I'm going to be over here? And finally, am I equipped to do this? Because if you're not, it's at this step that you should not go any further. So look and identify. So this is what you're going to go into your area. You've had to think about what you're going to do, and you're going to have a quick look. Can anybody see any safety risks on this slide? Anyone? Well, there's a few, so I'll pop them up. So the first one is we've got somebody in the background doing a job. So that's in your Take 5. You should notice that old mate over here is working in the area that you're going to be working in. So it's a sense of awareness. You're going to be lifting what looks to be a very heavy bin. I'm imagining that's at least 25 kilos. So are you in a position to be doing that and doing it safely? We've got trip hazards. There's all pipes across the floor. And I'm not saying you can't work in that environment, but if you take 5, look around you. Okay, I just need to be careful when I'm over there because there's hoses and I could trip. And then you've got steam coming out of there, so I don't know what's going on, but maybe there's better areas to work. Any ideas on this one? Anybody? You're a quiet bunch. So the first one is, he's obviously lifting a heavy keg. We all know how, well, many of us know how heavy a keg is, so, and that's fine, but just making sure that he's got the tools and he's equipped to do the job. But also, he's got trainers on. He hasn't got steel toe caps on, and he's moving really heavy things. So the question I'd be saying to myself is, what happens if I drop that keg on my foot? Maybe I should go and put my work boots on. He's also got bare legs. So I'm not sure, like, if you're keg cleaning and you could have caustic spray out or something, like, I'd be asking the question, can I do this safely in a pair of shorts? I like how the other guy is just standing there watching him. I don't know what's going on there. Any ideas on this one? I'm guessing not. Anyone want to have a crack? What was that?
Houses, water.
Yes, yep, there's a lot of trip hazards there. There's one in particular that hasn't come up yet. Yes, the ladder. This is a big one, right? And it's an unlashed ladder on a conical surface. So where a place I worked, I'm not going to name it, prior to joining the brewing industry, we had one of our longest serving, oldest employees put a ladder up a tank, actually in a wastewater treatment plant, without lashing it. So you've got a ladder on what is a round surface, and the ladder slipped, and not only did he fall, he fell onto the concrete bunding wall and smashed his pelvis. Now, he could have waited for somebody to hold the bottom of the ladder or lashed it, or we could have the question about whether he should have put a ladder on a conical surface anyway. But how that affected the team, we'd all worked together for a really long time. The manager was really severely affected because he felt like he was to blame. And unfortunately, it was one of our youngest employees that found him in that state and was the first person on the scene, and it somewhat traumatized her. So I'm always really like full on, lash your ladders, people, or get someone to hold them at the bottom, because things can change quickly. And yes, you've got all the trip hazards. Plus, I think he might not have any trousers on as well, and I'm sure there's chemicals there. So if anybody's ever come into contact with caustic, you'll know that's not the best plan. So assess the risk. We're on step 3 already, so this was going quite quick. We've figured out what we need to do. We've had a look at our workspace. We know what's happening where. So now we've got to have a think about the risk, and it's very simple. We tend to use the low, medium, or high hazards. And when you've looked at that, you need to put them into priority, because if you've got a high hazard and a low hazard, obviously you're going to tackle the high hazard first. And hopefully some of you have seen the hierarchy of controls. Everybody familiar with that? It's basically a very simple diagram, but it is so effective. And what it's saying is your best course of action and your safest course of action is always to eliminate the hazard. Engineer it out, physically remove it, because then it's dealt with. Substitution can work. Engineering controls like emergency stops, censored doors, that sort of thing. Interlock systems, they're good. But then when you get down towards administrative controls like having a procedure or manual lifting training, all the way down to PPE, those are where you're putting yourself at risk. If the only thing stopping you from hurting yourself is a face shield or some gloves, that you're really at the pointy end there. And then we're getting on to control the hazard. So, do I need PPE? And importantly, is it in good condition? So, I've come across some pretty tatty PPE in my time, or stuff that's actually still got a chemical on it and not being cleaned. Do I need safety equipment? Is it in good condition? If you're going to wear a harness or you're going to use an elevated work platform, just make sure it is in good nick and it's been inspected. Where are the e-stops? Do they work? And this is the number one thing I tell everybody that will listen to me that has a brewery. Make sure, one, you have e-stops or a way to stop your line or your brew kit where it needs to be. If you have a boil over, if you've got somebody caught in a conveyor or something's happening, where are those e-stops? And also test your e-stops. A lot of people don't think to do it, but at least once every 6 to 12 months, start your line, press those buttons or pull the cords and make sure that your e-stops are working. Same with your machinery guarding, because They are the things that stop the near fatal or very bad accidents. And the worst thing that can happen is, someone's having a boil over or something's happening and they hit that e-stop and nothing's doing. So just test them. And do I need help? Do I need a spotter? You're going up in an elevated work platform. Do you need someone to hold the ladder? Do I need to sign off the area or cordon off the area? Am I going to CIP a tank and could it spray somebody or something happen? So, and then for some reason my photos are just coming up randomly. So anyway, there's some photos for you to look at. Better late than never. Right, 5. See, we're already at number 5. So this is a nice, quick and easy process. And you'd have been able to do it a lot quicker than it took me to explain it to you. So monitor the hazard. Now, I'm a big fan of the Deming cycle, the plan, do, check, act. And I'll talk a little bit about how this works on this one. So plan. What are you going to monitor? Now, for sometimes you're not going to need to do this, but here's an example. You might be going somewhere that you could be in a confined space or a high CO2 environment. I'm going to monitor CO2. I'm going to wear my CO2 monitor. Start monitoring. Did it go well? Check. Is it all working? And act. Can the process be improved? It's as simple as that. Be consistent. Be objective. So don't let your personal biases affect your assessment of a hazard. And be thorough. And be willing to take action as well. If the monitoring reveals that the hazard's not being controlled, don't ignore it. Take action. Here's some great examples of people monitoring hazards. Like ladder compliance, smoke alarms, e-stops, my favourite. So we've done our take 5. So I think we'll agree that's fairly quick and easy to do. And then next step is embedding that good safety culture. So how do you get people to start doing take 5? Well, you start at the top. You need to lead by example. You need to be open-minded to change and if you're a people leader, give people permission to take 5. People, often team members, they want to do the best for everyone. They don't want to let you down. They want to work quickly. If you're a leader and you give people permission to take 5, they will do it. It needs to come from the top. Remove those pressures. Hold people accountable for unsafe behaviours. But also reward. I'm more about the carrot than the stick. Reward and recognise safe behaviours. Very important. So just because you've always done something that way doesn't mean that it needs to be that way. And people are diverse, so how a risk can affect one member of the team might affect another one differently. Walk the talk and, have conversations with your team about safety so they know that it is important to you. Empowering the team. Now, this is an important one. So never go out on the floor without keeping an eye on safety. Include it in your daily walk-arounds. And I also say this for food safety and quality. If you're going to go out on the floor in your brewery or your venue every day, don't just make it about, I'm going to go over there and talk to this person. Use it as an opportunity. Look around. Oh, what's happening here? And it's amazing. I've seen receptionists pick up faults in the brewery when they've gone to pass a message on because we've had a culture where everybody's responsible for safety and you take them on safety walks, and it's amazing. Take everybody on the journey, and that's my point. Everybody is responsible for safety. And train people. Say, I'm going to go for a walk today and have a look. Why don't you come with me? And teach them. You learn by walking around together. And create a system to raise, track and close out hazards. So firstly, people are walking around, they find something, make sure they've got something to do with that hazard. Don't just pay lip service to it. Log it, get it fixed. And always importantly, no matter who's raised the hazard, it's really good practice to come back to that person and say, right, we think we fixed that hazard. Can you come out and have a look and see that we actually got the point of what you were talking about? Because sometimes you go out there and they're like, oh, well, no, it was actually this part over here, or, you do get, miscommunication. So it's always good to check in with the person who's raised it. And it can't rest on just a few people's shoulders. Celebrating success. This is one of my favourite ones because I did mention I'm more carrot than stick. So lots of companies, and you'll see them when you go and visit big companies, they'll have how many days LTI free they are and stuff by the gate. As good as that is, I don't love people using lag indicators and things like LTI-free days to monitor, and measure their safety. And the reason for this is it puts a huge amount of pressure on your team to not be the person that gets the LTI. And I've seen that lead ultimately to people not reporting safety hazards or continuing to work when there's an issue, and they might have pulled a muscle in their shoulder, but they don't want to be the LTI guy, so they just keep working. So by all means, if you want to use it, but make sure you balance it out with some lead indicators. Good ones are like hazard raise, safety walks done. Reward people when they go above and beyond and model good behaviours. It's like reward the behaviours you want to see others doing and modelling. So the next steps, we're coming to the end of this talk now. So let's say you've implemented your basic safety culture and you've got your Take 5 procedure working. Where do you go from there? Well, chemical awareness training is something I always recommend, and your chemical company, usually, if they're a good one, will come and do that for you free of charge. My company also run it, but you should be getting it for free, really, from your chemical company. Risk assessments for key tasks. And we talked about, that the hierarchy and risks. Focus on those big ones and do a little risk assessment and see how you can eliminate or go through that hierarchy of controls to make people safe. Basic SOPs are always great. Basic safety inspections. Contractor management is a big one. So in many states, if a contractor is harmed on your site, you are responsible for them. And a lot of people don't realise they have a duty of care for contractors, and they're one of your biggest risks. Because if they're not inducted, and maybe they don't always work in the brewing industry, so they might not be aware of some of the risks, they're going to come on and do whatever they feel like if you're not keeping an eye on them. So a good contractor management, just do an induction once a year with them, just keep a little eye out. Implementing a lockout tagout procedure, that can save lives, that one. And if you have people that are really keen and really into safety, take on some safety reps. If someone's really keen and they're into it, support them to do the Cert 3 or whatever, and you'll easily get that back. It only takes an LTI or a work-based injury, and you've probably covered the cost of the Cert 3 training. So there you go. I think there's some good things to be starting out with. And that's it, see? Very quick and effective. How did I do? Less than half an hour. Look at that. Everyone can go and have a beer. Has anybody got any questions or anything they'd like to share? Any experiences that they think might help other people?
I got slapped or had a hose explode next to me a couple of years ago and hit 85 degree caustic. I was sizing a chunk of skin out of my leg at the same time, and all for the sake of someone just letting me know what they were doing.
Well, firstly, I'm sorry that happened to you. And I've been chatting to a few people the last few days that know I'm doing this talk, and people are telling me about all their caustic injuries, which is why I think this chemical safety training is so important. But it's a very real risk, and things can happen very quickly with caustic. Yeah. And some people don't have safety showers, right? And, some people don't realise, if you've got caustic all over your shirt, you're not really meant to pull it over your head. I do think we have, I'm surprised more people are not injured badly from caustic. When I started off in the industry 20 years ago, the chemical companies used to routinely get a bullseye from the butchers. And in the chemical training, it used to gross everyone out a bit. They used to drop caustic on the bullseye, and how quickly it filmed over and did permanent damage. It was so shocking, but it used to really resonate with people, and everybody used to wear their glasses after they'd done that training, because it can just happen in an instant. On the communication front as well, that's really important, and that's why I think you're going to kind of cover all bases, because different people need to be communicated in different ways. Signage is great. So that maybe would have helped you if there'd have been a SOP or, a CIP in process and that sort of thing. And just giving the heads up to your team members, right, I'm going to go out and do this now, so just watch out. It's those simple things, and that's why I do say take 5 and the cultural stuff is way more important than having a fancy safety manual, because that's the bit that will stop people getting covered in caustic and hurt. The other one, you know, might get you a fancy certificate or something, or get your insurance company to lower your premium. But the main thing you want to do is send people home in one piece. So, any other questions or comments? Cool. Well, you've been a small but lovely audience. Thank you. Go and have a beer and enjoy yourself.